What do you see the market doing in the next few months, next year?
Well, first of all, in the next few months, I expect a revisit of the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which is around 8,100, back to test 6,600. That is normal. The market has gone up in like perhaps a month. It's gone up almost 30%. I mean, that's unheard of. And there was a number of factors why. So now the market will go down and test to see if that 6,600 was a bottom. I don't think so. And we're going to get, for the next year and a half in the economy, a little bit lessening of problems.
That's what you said.
GDP will improve.
That's what you
but
said.
Unemployment's not going to improve.
That's what you pointed out. You said the bailout and the stimulus will just kind of make things stagnate, and then what you're saying in about a year, then it'll really start going back into hyperinflation. Give us, exactly where you see this going, because you're right about that, too, when we come back. And then more of your phone calls, folks. Stay with us.
Alex Jones Show, because there's a war on for your mind.
We are now simulcasting for the last hour, 52 minutes at PrisonPlanet.tv, the newly redesigned and updated PrisonPlanet.tv. Be sure and check it out. Bob Chapman is with us till the bottom of the hour. Then I want to play a short extra for PrisonPlanet.tv viewers. The listeners on the radio will be able to hear the audio. It's also very effective in letting you know what's happening, where they're breaking Christians' arms, and federal courts ruled that they are allowed, the police are allowed to torture you and break bones as part of paying compliance. You don't get out of a car, they can break your arm to make you do it. You don't get, you're sitting out in front of an abortion clinic, they can break your arm. The bone can stick out. Now, YouTube lets you see the fake CIA beheading videos, which have been staged, with the heads being sawed off. But what they don't let you see is this. When this gets uploaded to YouTube, it gets taken down. Or they say adult content, and it gets blocked. So that is coming up. And, all it is breaking Americans' arms. And that's on TV all the time. 7 o'clock at night it's on during the family hour. But this is real. You're going to see arms, compound fractures. And the police go right in front of cameras. Hey, no big deal. This is torture. So, of course, what's happening in Abu Ghraib is torture as well. Okay, I want to blitz through these calls. But, Bob, specifically, I remember you saying it would go up like it did a few years ago and then back down. And you even said in a few months I see it going down to, 66, and then I see it going up to 8,000, and then I see it going back down again. And you're even doing it month to month accurately. When will there be the big plunge, or will they just start hyperinflating in a year, and the stock market will reflect that? Maybe the stock market will be at, not 15,000, but 100,000. It's just it won't be worth as much. Or what's going to happen?
Well, the market's going to go down. And we're not going to get a hyper market. It just isn't going to happen. We'll get hyperinflation as soon as the money that was lent to the banks by the Fed, that was then lent back and stored with the Fed, is put into action. Now, right now, they're not using that money. They keep it on the balance sheet to ostensibly make themselves strong and receive about 1% interest for virtually doing nothing. And it's sort of like a wash sale. And so sooner or later, banks are going to have to use that money to keep the economy going. How far away is that? We don't know yet. Probably next year. But in the meantime, we're still going to have inflation because M3, which they don't publish anymore, is expanding at about 18% again. And in other countries, it's even higher. China's over 25%. And that money and credit that's being expanded by many major governments is going to cause ongoing inflation. And the money that is being created by the Fed and is being created through borrowing by the fiscal part of our government, which is our government looking for money to pay interest more than anything else, and run the government because revenues are falling as well. And that is going to continue to push inflation higher again. And then once they take this money that banks have out of sterilization, as it's called, then the thing will just go berserk. I can't put a timing on that yet, but it's going to happen. I'll see probably a month or two ahead when they're going to begin it, but they haven't begun it as yet.
Well,
and quite frankly, I thought they would have.
Well, we're a year into this, and you said it would take 2 or 3 years, and most of the other people we talk to who are of your caliber of researcher are saying something similar. So what, we're a year and a half out probably, or you're saying it could come sooner?
The chances are a year and a half out to 2 years, but it could come sooner because of that untoward event I explained earlier. There are things that happen that nobody can control.
Okay, one more point, like China or somebody pulling out, and then we're going to calls. I want your take on this. It was in the New York Times. They even had a graph showing how China had been, increasing its purchase of U.S. bonds, that back our debt, for those that don't know. Now they've suddenly reversed, and it was a huge drop. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I'm sure you do. And it showed other countries are now, it appears the move from the dollar, they've gone to baskets and started buying a little bit of other stuff, but now China and others are buying gold, silver, copper. They're hoarding it all. And other countries, it appears we're now really starting to see the flight away from the dollar coinciding with this talk about a new world reserve currency with more G20 meetings coming up.
All of that is true. And actually, it's a flight from all currencies. Because in Europe, you have people buying gold coins and bars, and they're not dealing in dollars, they're dealing in euros. So you're seeing a flight to quality from all currencies, small at this time, but it'll grow larger. And that'll happen in an evolutionary process because all of the major countries, G20 and more, are making the same mistakes that we are, grasping at straws because the politicians don't want to be around when the bottom falls out. So the Indian government, the Chinese government, the Russian government, the Japanese government, they're moving into precious metals across the board, including industrial metals like copper. You can just Google governments buying copper, and it's a run on copper. There's a run to commodities, real commodities, and you're right, there's a flight from currencies globally. And so I guess they've got to kill the global currencies to bring in the real world currency. Well, and I don't think it's going to be SDRs because they've been unsuccessful before. They're backed by nothing. And I think that what they'll do is go for a basket of currencies and say that we're going to have gold backing when, in fact, they won't. And that's the way I think they're going to get away with trying to make their world currency. But because of programs like this, people are aware that this is what they're up to. And they're not going to let that happen in their country, whether it's Colombia or Bolivia or Tashkent or wherever it is. That's right. A global government. Do it. A global government setting the currency rates. Let's go to the calls here. Thanks for holding, Paul in Florida. You're on the air.
Thanks.
Hi.
Yeah, I've been in InfoWars since 1981. My punk band from Florida sang about everything that's happening right now. But I'm hard to keep on subject. I really appreciate your work. I just wanted to talk about what you mentioned early in the show, which is torture. The Delta Force, they're like federal agents. They can dress however they like. They don't wear ranking badges, but everyone... Yeah, they're under the National Security Council. That's Cheney's hit team. It's only Bush. No, it's been around for decades. It's still going on, and it's not even really part of the military, yes. Yeah, and I think it was them who moved into the World Trade Center to wire all the explosives. And I have an Army friend who was at Fort Detrick, Maryland, and he told me about how they choose their members. They look for sick. He thought they looked for sick, demented people who were who would confirm as yes men and who get off on being plugged into the chain of command, as if they were the top gun. So I think that's the mentality. Yeah, I heard Limbaugh about 10 years ago, and then I confirmed it with the Delta Force and other groups. There's other secret groups after that. They give them, after they've gone through all these months of training and the psychological warfare and all the tests, and all these guys have washed out, from the Navy SEALs and Marine Force Recon and the Green Berets. It's this joint deal. They then put them in a little shack with Machiavelli's The Prince. And they ask them to write an essay on it, just like they do high-level Masons. And if they say, I don't agree with end justifies the means and doing all these evil things,
for the greater good in the end, they go, you don't pass, but we want you for something else. But if you say, oh, yes, I think doing evil for good is good, they say, that's it, you graduate. And they can also, and then they do other psychological testing. But go ahead.
Yeah, and so what my idea is that what they're going to do is when they need a chain of command that's going to listen, they're going to put these guys in the chain of command just under the New World Order structure, and under them they're going to put a lot of the people they've recruited from the gangs, and then under them the foot soldiers, so that they'll try to keep what looks like a chain of command that's listening. And so there's a polarization. The good people like us were coming together, and they're coming together under power, just like in the cities, people in gangs come together for power.